Believe it or not, there was a time when Seven Deadly Sins was considered good. Before the crayon drawings, the random censorship, and the bizarre writing, we had what I'm going to talk about today, the moment when Seven Deadly Sins peaked. It all starts in Visel when we get the second tournament arc, which leads to Meliodas facing Gloxinia and Droll by himself. And it's an epic fight. I love the strategy Meliodas employs during it, trying to fight them one-on-one, and it looks like he's going to win, until all of the other 10 commandments show up. Then he just becomes a punching bag. But it turns out he was baiting them in, taking damage so he could use revenge counter, and it looked like he had taken control of that fight. The revenge counter is about to be unleashed, and Meliodas is going to prevail again. And right as he's about to unleash that blast, Esterosa gently places his hand on Meliodas' sword, and that neutralizes the entire thing. As it turns out, he has his own version of full counter. In mere seconds, he's established as the biggest threat we've ever seen in the show. And as a viewer, you're kind of panicking. What the hell is going to happen here? Prior to this, we didn't know anything about Esterosa, which makes watching this episode so fascinating. Because when he speaks, the entire show changes. That holy war from the past that we're worried about repeating, Meliodas started the last one. How'd he do that? By betraying the 10 Commandments, a group he led. Esterosa says they're brothers and wonders if he'll betray the sins like he did the commandments. All of this information was shocking, not only to us, but to the rest of the cast. And I really love how when he's talking about the commandments, the camera cuts right to Gother, just a small little detail. And despite everything, Esterosa says he loves Meliodas dearly. You actually start to wonder, is there nuance to this? Is Meliodas kind of a bad guy, or was he? You have so many questions. Questions that it may take a little while to get answers to, because Melascula volunteers to eat Meliodas' soul, which brings us to a touching moment with Ban, knowing that to save the captain, he'll have to take out Melascula, who is the only reason Elaine is alive. He basically has to pick one, and her absolute support for him wanting to save Meliodas while sharing some final moment together was a really cool scene. As Melascula tries to feast, Ban appears and absolutely destroys her neck. It's insane. And now Meliodas has the help he needs, right? Well, maybe not. Esterosa thanks Ban for killing her, and you continue to grow more fascinated with Esterosa as a character, and also Ban's reaction was so funny, he's just like, yeah, whatever. The relationship between Ban and Meliodas is so good, such a well-written, fun relationship. Even in this dire situation, they can't help but banter, which normally wouldn't be a great idea, but here, it doesn't matter, because Esterosa is too much. He reveals high-level demons have 7 hearts, then instantly moves past Ban and one by one starts inserting daggers into Meliodas' hearts. And to Ban's credit, he's trying to stop Esterosa the whole time, but it's like he's not even there. He can't do anything. As the last blade is about to go in, you're expecting something to happen. Someone has to save Meliodas. He's the main character, but that doesn't happen. Esterosa tears up and inserts the final dagger, ending Meliodas' life. And as a viewer, you have no idea how to react to this. A teary-eyed Ban is freaking out. Basically, Ban was disturbing this emotional moment for him, so he explodes Ban in entirety. It's the craziest sequence of events in the history of this show. Then the 10 Commandments leave, and Elizabeth shows up looking for Meliodas' corpse, and she's in total denial. She's talking to the dude impaled by swords like he can hear what she's saying, and you feel bad for her because he's basically everything to her, and you're starting to think she's lost it. We get a little flash forward, and things keep getting crazier. The sins are separated. Gother has been imprisoned for allegedly being one of the 10 Commandments. Deanne and King are off to the Fairy King's forest. Arthur is off fighting demons with Nanashi, and we get teased that there's this cat that won't let him die because it's a monster. Ban has recovered and alongside others are back in the kingdom, and they're the last line of defense. Merlin has locked herself away. Citizens are offering up the souls of knights to the 10 Commandments in hopes of favorable treatment. Britannia is on the verge of absolute chaos. We even get a call back to the Weird Fangs from season 1, where we see them as fugitives and then get their souls eaten. This is when the show was at its most interesting, because you felt like anything and everything could happen. There were so many open threads and everything felt hopeless. The overpowered main character is dead. His team is scattered. What's with Arthur's cat being so important? Civilians are offering up souls to save themselves. Esterosa seems unstoppable. Everything was unraveling, and you had no idea where the show was going to go, and it was awesome because there was so much potential to what could happen next. To me, there's nothing better than watching a show when it looks like all hope is lost, and you don't see a way out, but something happens to turn the tide. That's where we were here. And then they blew it. Meliodas came back almost right away. Esterosa went from probably the show's most compelling and interesting villain to one of the most convoluted story arcs ever, and it bombed hard. Arthur's cat only mattered later as part of another dumb twist that might only be redeemed by the sequel series. The sins being scattered and against the ropes didn't really go anywhere. The civilian stuff didn't go anywhere. Elizabeth wasn't insane, and that's all before the worst studio swap in anime history took place.